Today we are going to make these awesome title animations. You can change the title, the animation, colors, and almost everything thanks to some simple geometry nodes. Since we can't make every animation in this one tutorial, we are going to make something that covers all the stuff you need to know to create any of these animations. But don't worry, you can grab all those animation project files from Gumroad for free. So let's start creating this. Create a plane and scale it up. Let's go to Eevee. Add an HDRI to the world shader and create a material for the plane. Let's make this red and reduce the roughness a bit. Also, decrease the strength of the HDRI. Add an area light and position it like this and increase its power and size to get a more soft light effect. Now add a camera. Hit Alt-R to clear the rotation and position it above the plane. Increase this value to 1 so we only see what's rendering. Let's go to geometry nodes to make our title animation. Set the world to transparent and rename our plane to background or BG for short. Add a mesh plane and rename it to text. This will be our title. Add a new geonode setup and give it a proper name. Since we don't need our initial geometry, remove the connection by Ctrl right click drag over the noodle. So to create our text, Shift A under text, add a string to curve node. Plug it to the output. Here we can type our text, anything you want. Align the text to center. If you want to learn more about strings and text options inside Blender geometry nodes, check my digital timer tutorial. Right now we only have these curve lines as our text, so to fill them up, add a fill curve node. Let's change the font and some of these settings. Since we want to change the text to whatever we want, let's extract it out by dragging it to the input node. Now we can change it from here. Let's start animating. To animate individual characters, we need a way to address each one of those separately. For that, we can use an index node. What this does is, it retrieves the number or the ID of individual characters of the text. If I view it through a viewer node, you can see in the spreadsheet editor we have 7 instances, which means 7 characters and they all have different numbers to identify. Since I want to make these characters translate and rotate to the opposite direction from the next character, I change these index values to 1 and -1. This will make their movements opposite to the next one. So let's make that happen. Since our index start with 0, I add a math node and add 1. This will make it start from value of 1. Now I duplicate this math node and change it to modulo and change the second value to 2. This will divide our input value from the second value, which is 2, and give us the remaining. In this case, it results in a 0, 1, 0, 1 pattern. Now to change this 0 to -1, I add a map range node and set toMin value to -1. Hit Shift P and frame this. Call it, I don't know, 1 by 1 character selection. I hope that makes sense. Let's change the color. As you can see, our text is actually a bunch of instances. To move any instances, we can use instances translate instances node. Now changing this y value, we can make it go up and down. Since this is a vector input and I only want to change the y value, add a combine xyz node. This will give us the option to change the individual axis. Let's drag this to y. Immediately you can see it moves our characters 1 unit up and down. Add a math node and multiply it to control this movement. So we got our character's position ready to animate. Now let's rotate these. Simple. We are going to use rotate instances node. Do the exact same thing, but this time to the Z axis. Now to animate this from outside, I like to have a slider. For that, add a node with a slider on it. Here I use a curve trim curve node and drag its end value to the input node. Then delete the node and we have our slider. So what I want is, I want our text to animate when I bring this slider from 0 to 1. So to do that, duplicate multiply node and let's see which value is going to push our text outside of camera above. And paste that value to the second value of this multiply node. Drag the first value to the slider and drag the output to this second value. See, our slider is working. Actually, it's going the opposite way. So let's use a map range node and reverse our slider value. And now you can see when our slider goes from 0 to 1, our text will appear from outside and position itself in the middle. So let's do the same for our rotation. Actually, here we don't need to reverse it. Let's use the value directly from the slider. And just like that, we have our animation slider working. Let's make our text 3D. For that, use Mesh Extrude Mesh node. Here in the bottom you can see it's doing this weird thing, so untick this individual option. Now we have our 3D text. Although we don't see the bottom of the text, let's fill it by joining this with our initial text mesh. Let's add a material to the text as well. Create a material and assign it from here. Let's change the material a bit. I'll keep the white color. Now let's animate our slider going from 0 to 1 and wait there for a second or two and then go from 1 to 0. I changed the animation length to 40 frames. To enhance our animation, I select our text and in the graph editor, I change the handles to make it start faster and end faster. So let's render this. Enable the motion blur and the bloom and AO pass. In the compositor, multiply the render with AO a little bit and use an exposure node for the bloom pass and add it to the render. I added the RGB curves node and adjust the contrast a bit and use a lens distortion node to add a distortion and dispersion. Use an ellipse mask and blur it using blur node and multiply it with our render for some vignette. If you want, you can add a box mask in the same way to add a black bars. So that's it for this animation. Again, if you want to see how other animations are made, you can grab all the files from Gumroad for free. I will add some notes so you can understand it even better. And also, if you make something using these techniques, don't forget to tag HellFX. I love to see those. So, what do you think about today's video? Comment down below. If you like to support the channel and get all the extras and early access, feel free to join our Patreon. So, I hope you learned something cool, something new. I mean, that's what we like to do. We not only create stuff, we let you create with us. Hit that like button, comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe to HellFX Learn so you won't miss out when the next video drops. So, until next time,